Hi everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and today I want to take you around and show you some very exciting stuff that's happening in the gardening. And today I want to take you around and show you some very exciting stuff that's happening in the garden. I'm hiding over by this edge of the house right now because the wind has just been howling this morning. So you can say you saw my hair combed. I did comb it. It's not going to look like this in just a couple of minutes. But even though we've had just absolutely brutal weather, the plants are doing pretty darn well, and we've got some very exciting things happening. So we want to share. So come along. Now first, I have to admit, I have to share my flower garden. I am just so pleased with this garden this year. I love cottage style gardens, and this one just keeps getting better and better. There are a few weeds in there right now. There's some lamb's quarter, and I'm actually planning to harvest the lamb's quarter next week. We want to try eating it. So that's kind of sitting there. But I have a ton of Johnny Jump Ups, also called violas. There's all kinds of dianthus and California poppies. We've got hollyhocks in the back. There's a couple of sunflowers in there. I don't even know what color a lot of these dianthus are going to be because they were all transplanted. They were rescues from another bed. There's also a bunch of bachelor buttons, also called cornflowers, in there. There are native violets in here. So it's just this wonderful, crazy thing that's kind of organically growing, and I love it. So I have to admit, I'm bragging on that one. So let's go down the house here and we'll show you what else is going on. Now this is Jack's spot. Every afternoon I kick the dirt back in there, and every day he digs it back out. But it's his spot, so he's allowed to do that. Here's some spinach, and these are mostly brassicas. There's pak choi, there's kohlrabi, there's a couple of different kinds of broccoli and stuff. They've been very badly chewed up, but they're doing really well now. I did spray them. We had flea beetles that just came out of the sky from nowhere and ate everything, but I know that for sure the kohlrabi will definitely be producing, and the kohlrabi have just turned out to be probably the most productive plant we've grown this year, pak choi being number 2. Now this poor rhubarb has gotten a bit beat up this past week because the wind has been so high. The leaves on it are like sails. We actually harvested a whole bunch. We have it, Henry cooked it down, but it's frozen right now because we just didn't have any time to do with anything with it, so we didn't want to lose it. Onions, pak choi, more spinach. There are also some odd things like, oops, as I trip over the thing here. Let's see, over here, there's also a, that'll be a bachelor button. I'm trying not to take out things like that that are sort of volunteers. I don't mind if there's a random bachelor button in here, and it'll look kind of cool. These over here are actually leeks. We've got some sunflowers that I planted against the wall, and they're doing great. And since I ran a little thing of water along the front here, we've also got some violas and a couple of other bits and pieces. There'll be, let's see, right in the middle, where is it? Over in here, there's going to be a California poppy blooming soon. It's got a flower, it's got a bud on it. So there's the flowers and stuff tucked in. I got some, let's see, that is peppermint. But this is one of our rotted straw bale beds. Now, unfortunately, the other one has not gotten finished yet. I have a whole bunch of seedlings that need to go in there, but we were short on water for a while there, so this was going to take some sogging before we wanted to use it, and we just couldn't do it. So we focused our efforts on the plants that had already been transplanted, and boy am I glad we did, because we've got some great stuff going on here. This is obviously a little zucchini in there. And this one, this is a Bennington green, so that'll be a patty pan. These guys on the trellis in the back are all going to be cucumbers, and they are just blooming like crazy. So far, most of the flowers that I've seen have been male, but I'm trying not to poke at them too much in there, because I'm sure there's probably going to be some females. I just need to kind of watch to make sure that I don't wind up with any, 2-foot-long cucumbers, which doesn't happen too often. I'm usually pretty good about that sort of thing. But if we peek in here, down on the bottom, we do have a little yellow squash. And in here, we've got several zucchinis, and more zucchinis, and there is a baby patty pan right in there. I don't know if you can see him or not. And then there's more, I think that's zucchini back there too. But just so excited that these guys are blooming like crazy. And I would say we'll be eating zucchini next week. And we'll be picking them small because we don't like baseball bats, we like zucchini. And I'm really not all that keen on zucchini bread. It's okay, but I don't really want to bake that much in the summertime. So it's hard to want to bake something like that. Anyway, let's see, what else do we have going on that's cool? Peas are still producing. I harvested again this morning, but they're kind of on the last. However, over here, we have okra. Now, most of the wall has come down. We've been gradually taking it down here. I put up a little wall to give some protection from the wind. But you'll see this is an okra plant, and it's got its first flower. I noticed the other day that these guys had buds that they were starting to produce. This okra is from Haas Tools, and it is a red okra. And what else we have here? We have over here, we have broad beans. And we've already decided that unless we decide that they are the best thing since sliced bread, we're probably not going to try them again. They are just difficult to grow here because of our swings in temperature and stuff like that. We have a too unstable an environment for them. You can never tell in the spring. You might have a spring that stays cool really late, but generally speaking, the last couple of years we've been going hot really early. Now, this red stuff here, over in here, is red Callaloo, and it's growing like a weed, which is awesome. It is an amaranth, so it should grow like a weed. A bunch of the weeds that commonly annoy people are actually amaranths. Give it a little bit more, a couple more weeks, and I think we'll be munching a few leaves to try it and see what we think about it. And then there's a Swiss chard back here that has definitely doubled since we planted it. Very happy with this. I just threw down some makeshift irrigation this morning because we're getting ready to go to Phoenix for a day and a half on business, and we want to make sure that everybody's still okay. Okra is fairly drought tolerant, as Callaloo, I think, is moderately drought tolerant too. So we'll see. Very excited about that. Let's see what else. Oh, I know. Okay. Come on over here. This is our sweet corn. Now, that may not look exciting to some people, but to us that's really exciting. And there's only a couple of weeds in there. There's one I'm waiting for to get a little bit bigger. It'll be easier to pull out when it gets a little bit bigger. But our sweet corn is a good deep green color, and that's what we're watching for. If you listen to Haas Tools, they'll tell you that corn should be so green that it's just the tips are almost burning on it from the fertilizer you got, because it's a really heavy feeder, and we're determined to make that sweet corn really pop this year. Probably planted a little closer than most people would recommend. I've done that before here and not had any problems. So we'll see what happens. And worst case, next year we won't plant it as close. But we're very excited about that. So come on down here. These are some slightly beat up tomatoes, but that's okay. They're actually doing pretty well. I have not trimmed these since they've been planted. And one of the advantages to not trimming them is, for instance, down here, there's a bunch of new shoots. See here? I can choose to take off these ratty looking ones and leave the new ones, and they'll be fine. So that gives me kind of a fallback position. And I've done that before here, and it's worked really well, so that's what we're doing. Now, this is our ground cherries. Had a little trouble getting the water quite worked out at first, but now we've got it. Everybody's happy. And this guy here is already starting to bloom. So, it's hard to see the little flowers. I don't want to mess them up. They're really pretty. But they're a classic nightshade family sort of flower with that center spike. And so we're starting to see some flowers on some of these. Very happy with that. Over here in this center bed here. Oh, this is some of my herbs. These are, I forget what the heck they are. Anyway, this whole thing just kind of went and did its own thing. And I just leave it alone because the gophers generally don't bother that. But we do have some very nice sized tomatoes. This is Alaskan Fancy, and they're doing really well. I am anticipating that soon we have some little buds in there. These are our Poblano pepper plants, and I'm watching these. Last year we had trouble with aphids on Poblano peppers, so we'll be watching that to make sure we don't have that happen again. One of the things that is a source of aphids for us around here is, my brain's gonna fall out. I can't think of the name of the plant. It's a wildflower. Looks like a giant dandelion, and I can't see one because it would probably pop into my head. Anyway, there are some natural, I would say, attractants, and one of our wildflowers here is a natural attractant. So I tend to get rid of them if I find them in the yard. I don't mind the way they look or smell or anything else. They don't make stickers, which is usually my rules about, like, if you make stickers, you can't live in my yard. But basically the problem is they attract aphids. I mean, you may not have seen an aphid anywhere on the property. You have one of those plants pop up and magically you'll have aphids. So let's see, we have self-seeded dill, and as you can see, it's already starting to flower right there. So as soon as this is done, we won't cut it back or anything. It's been here in this corner over here for about 3-4 years. I did not plant dill here. I planted it someplace else in the yard. It wound up over here, but it likes it here. So I just let it come back, and we have dill plants in with the tomatoes right now. Some of them are actually growing up through the tomatoes. I don't care. It's not going to hurt anything. And we'll be able to harvest the dill seed, which we've done before. Henry also likes dill with fresh salmon and a few other things like that. So that will give us more options. Dill can be dried or it can be frozen. And either way, they have the pros and cons, I'm sure, to both. These poor looking things here are actually doing really well. It sounds silly, but I just transplanted these. These are all long beans from Asia. We have Gitas and we have red noodles, and they're used in stir fry, and the plants had been badly attacked by flea beetles, but lots of new growth coming out on them, and as you can see, they're already starting to zip their way up the trellis here, so we have great hopes that they will be able to do well, especially once the wind dies down a little bit. This little guy over here is a yellow squash, and he was just planted in there this morning, so he's been outside for a week and a half or something like that, but he just got transplanted this morning because I don't want to risk trying to keep him wet enough while we're gone, whereas here he'll get irrigation. And this is our other bit of excitement with corn. This is our dent corn, and yeah, we are got it on automatic irrigation. Obviously, you can tell by all those 9,000 strings of irrigation here, but we were very excited to see how fast this stuff popped. Both the sweet corn and the dent corn are from Haas Tools, and really looking forward to it. I have not grown corn in probably, I want to say 8 or 10 years, but I used to and loved it. Always got a pretty decent harvest here for having a small plot. And this year we know that we haven't had much of a problem in the past with corn earworm, But this year we're going to spray with BT when it gets to be that time so that we don't have to worry about it at all. This bed over here is a combination of garlic and Jerusalem artichokes. The green things now are Jerusalem artichokes. They're the happy looking ones. The garlic has said enough, and when we get back, I got to soak down this some more and harvest the garlic and see what we've got. We have a bunch of the stuff on the other side of the bed over here is elephant garlic, and then there's a lot more stuff on this side that's regular hardneck garlic. And I don't expect much of a harvest of the hardneck garlic because I did not have chance to replant it. This is just like overwintered stuff, and yeah, it is what it is. We figured we got a lot of really great garlic scapes out of the deal this spring. It's kind of a trade-off. I would have rather had garlic rather than garlic scapes, but we did have lovely garlic scapes. I see I missed a couple because I saw one yesterday, and I see another one over here that's going to bloom. Two of them actually, there and there. And those will be too old and tough to use now as garlic scapes. But our other project here is coming along. We're just trying to keep down the weeds over here. I'll be putting down another piece of cloth, some more gravel later, but the big thing was to just kind of stabilize it. I wanted to get this semi-stabilized while there's no water in that tank, because once there's 250 gallons of water in there, you're not going to move it. And I also wanted to level it because it had kind of tilted towards the building, which is not good. Very glad that got to the point where it can be sit there now, and I'll get to it one later. I see ladybugs. There we go. Hopefully you can see them too. I'm always of mixed feelings when I see ladybugs. I'm glad they're around, but I'm wondering what they're eating. We have, in the straw bales, we have a bunch of, I think you can probably see the tomatoes from here. They're, the plants are a little beat up, but the tomatoes are doing well. A lot of what we're growing is paste tomatoes. We're experimenting. In case you wonder why we have these bottles on here, it's actually a safety feature. Because of the head injury that Henry suffered in an accident, he has some blind spots in his eyes, and it makes it hard for him to see odd things like sticks. So it's just a safety thing. It's like, by doing that, yeah, it's just a better idea. And there's all kinds of great things. I obviously could not find, I had a broken arrow sitting over in the workshop that I kept looking at going, there must be something I can use that for. And when I was looking for a short stick, I said, that's what I can use that for. So my husband thought it was funny. But I can't ever turn it into an arrow again because it's too short. There we go. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little trip around the yard. We're just really happy with some of the stuff that's starting to pop now. Seeing that okra flower, I knew that they had buds on it, but seeing the okra flower starting to open this morning was just delightful. And we have so many flowers on our cucumbers and squash right now. It really makes you feel kind of hopeful. Have a ton of seedlings that are all ready to go in the second straw bale bed. As soon as we get home, we'll be working on getting that one soaked, and we got to close the end on it, soak it, beat it up a little bit, and then I'll be topping it with some compost. And then we'll be able to put cantaloupe. We have another type of cucumbers, market more I think, and I think I got all the squash out. But yeah, lots and lots of cantaloupe. And we're going to be finding a place. We are also determined to grow a little bit of pumpkin this year and a little bit of watermelon. So that's something that we haven't grown either of those in 30 years, I don't think. Just haven't. So we're going to fix that this year because we're home, so we might as well enjoy it. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because we'll be doing lots more stuff, obviously. And once we start getting more stuff in off the garden, we'll be talking about what you can do with it. I actually have an idea for an interesting video that was inspired by another YouTube creator that is really working hard right now trying to learn to cook better and cook more interesting, exciting things, because, well, her family's not going out to eat. So you can't just say, oh, well, I'm tired of eating at home, let's go get Chinese food. No, we can't say that anyway, because I'm trying to think where the closest Chinese restaurant is. I know there's some good Japanese restaurants up in Flagstaff, so an hour and 15. Yeah. So no, that's one way. We don't do takeout here. So take care, be safe, and have a great week. Bye.